Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Friday night inside The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler. It's playoff time, baby. Lock Shop's brought to you by Coolbet Canada, and we are finally here, Huss. I'm so fired up for the postseason, buddy.
Yeah, I imagine people are maybe more fired up in Edmonton than they are in Winnipeg. But again, after this evening, the regular season is a distant memory. Everyone resets to zero, and it is go time beginning next Wednesday for the Jets and Oilers. But what's insane, man, is that the playoffs get going tomorrow, even though Calgary and Vancouver still have 3 more games. It's just another strange part of the strangest year maybe ever in the National Hockey League. But yeah, I'm fired up. I cannot wait. And we've got a lot to talk about on today's Lock Shop.
Oh.
Not a regular program with our regular picks and dog pounds because we got to get ready for the Stanley Cup playoffs overall, Dusty.
With that being said, we're still getting a wide world of wagering, are we not?
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
It is the weekend after all, right?
You scared me. You scared me.
The Wide World of Wagering does not sleep for anything, especially the Stanley Cup playoffs. None of these mainstream sports are going to keep us away from another winning esports parlay at the end of the show. Trust me on that.
Lock Shop is brought to you by Coolbet Canada. Hop online, coolbet.com, and sign up for an account if you do not yet have one. Use the bonus code LOCKSHOP. You get a 100% deposit bonus on your initial deposit up to $200. So much going on. It's like a community there at Coolbet. There's lots going on, lots of different things to check out, even if you just want to go browse around and see what we're always talking about. I will say, so yesterday morning, I saw the initial opening lines of the series, and then we were doing a Two Guys and a Goalie podcast yesterday, and we had Pat on. It was at that moment I realized all the individual player point totals had been released, and I let the rest of the guys talk to him. It was like Christmas morning, buddy. I was like, ooh, I like that. Click, I'll take that. Oh, I love this guy. Click. I went to my account when I first saw it, and I popped in, and I had more money in there than I expected. And I instantly put all of it on McDavid over 10.5 points. And then I reloaded to get all the other bets. It was so great seeing all those numbers yesterday.
Oh, man, we got to clip this because when the incredible end of your McDavid run happens in the first round, this will be one of my, when we do the best of Lock Shop for 2021, this is the clip that I want when we're talking about what happens with the Jets. In all seriousness, though, I mean, I don't know why we're wasting time talking about the first round, because from listening to your station and listening into Toronto, like, are the odds for the Oilers-Leafs series out yet?
You are right. You are right. It does seem that way. And I thought to myself driving around, just thinking about it a couple times, I'm like, man, like the Jets were my sexy pick at the beginning of the year. Like I got money on the Jets to win the entire thing in the North. But so I've kind of caught myself a few times being like, I think we're kind of jumping the gun here a little bit. But then I look back on McDavid had 2 points in every single game against Winnipeg. And I don't know if the Jets can somehow all of a sudden figure out a way to slow him down. Montreal's been basically in the cellar for the last 2 months. So are they going to be able to turn it around against the Leafs? But I do think we're a little bit guilty of that. I think the Jets have a better chance of knocking off the Oilers than the Habs do of the Leafs. But yeah, is that rubbing people the wrong way in Winnipeg a little bit or what?
Just me, Nielsen. Just me right now. I don't know whether they've been paying attention to it. But, no, hey, listen, ever since Tuesday, I mean, I have been I'm a positive person. I'm a Winnipeg guy. There are paths to victory for the Winnipeg Jets. I mean, I think there's just more for the Edmonton Oilers, and that's why you have a favorite, and that's why you have an underdog. And, I know like some of the, the numbers guys have cranked out numbers, and, the Oilers are kind of like 65 to 70%, and, Winnipeg 30 to 35. And that probably makes sense, especially considering the way these teams ended the season. But honestly, if we backed up a month ago and had the same conversation, it would not be just a fait accompli that the Oilers are going to run over. So listen, the old saying, that's why they play the games. I think that the Jets and Paul Maurice, for people watching in Winnipeg or, in our area here in the middle of the country, will probably have seen this. Maurice a number of times through this really tough stretch for the Jets has said, that, he really does believe that as difficult as it's been, in some ways they had to get back to the fundamentals and really, accept the way that they're going to have to play if they want to expect to have a chance to beat Edmonton or Toronto in the playoffs. And, it's being a much better defensive team that they played. I mean, you think back to some of those games against Edmonton. I mean, the amount of goals that McDavid and Draisaitl scored off the rush, off turnovers. Yeah. I mean, they needed to play better. They needed to be less sloppy, but also, have a 5-man commitment to a defense. And listen, the offense has taken a bit of a hit lately, and that's been a big part of that slump. But I'll tell you what, with a 9-point explosion from Wheeler, Connor, and Scheifele, fingers crossed that Ehlers will be back, if not for game 1 early in the series. I think there is some optimism, but I think everyone knows it's going to be a great series. And, both teams are going to have to be good to move on. And in all likelihood, have the Leafs waiting for them in the second round. And that's going to be great. We've had a lot of fun with the North Division all year long. Now it's really going to get good, Dusty.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be good now. We got 2. I've been a Habs fan my entire life. I'm 40 years old. I've never had a chance to watch them play the Maple Leafs in the playoffs. So it's happening, and they're probably going to get just shit kicked, but whatever. I mean, I'll take it. I finally get to see it, so I'm looking forward to that. We'll get to that. Pat's going to join us. Pat Gregoire is going to join us from CoolBet. Chris Abbott's on vacation right now, so Patty's going to pop by a little bit later on. Wide World of Wagering, some plus money props. We're going to get to player props, our best first round bets. But let's start right at the top here with the Stanley Cup, and I'll lead the way here because I'm going with the chalk here at the top of the Colorado Avalanche. I know from a value perspective, plus 450. Not a great number to have a team go and win it all, but the Colorado Avalanche are my pick to win the Stanley Cup this year. So this is the number that I'm going to have to live with at plus 450, and we'll see where it actually settles in here at if there's any change on it. So I'm going with Colorado. Makar's a freak. We know that. The rest of their blue line can contribute offensively as well. Girard's very underrated. They've had excellent goaltending this year from Grubauer, and then you're rolling out Landeskog and Rantanen and McKinnon, and the list goes on and on of these guys who can all contribute in their own way. I've seen some people say that they could not very easily, but are a significant favorite to win the Stanley Cup. I don't know if I'm buying into that, but they are my pick to win it. So I wish it was a little bit of a better number, but I'll take the Avalanche here at plus 450.
You know what, Dusty, by the numbers, I think they really are a significant favorite. At plus 450, they are the favorite. And the second place team is the Toronto Maple Leafs at plus 550. And I think everyone realizes that they're not the second best team or in real life have the second best odds. But it comes down to a liability stake for the books. And there's a lot of Leaf fans out there that are fired up, that are firing on their team right now. And that's pushed that number down. To me, the sweet spot of this is sort of in the middle. Now, I'll just get to my pick. I got Vegas at plus 650. I do think that the Stanley Cup champ is coming out of this division. And I think that second round matchup, in all likelihood, between the Golden Knights and the Avalanche could very well be the team that moves on and wins the whole thing. I will say this. It was bizarre seeing the Golden Knights play a game with President's Trophy and first place implications last week with 10 forwards and 5 defensemen.
Yeah.
And the way that they've handled the cap is strange, I think, to say the least. And, there was a number of games this year where they didn't play with the full complement. They lost a number of those games. And honestly, that was the difference between first and second. And the problem with this is that the Golden Knights now face the Minnesota Wild in the first round, and Minnesota had more success, I think, than any team in the NHL against the Golden Knights. Now, much as my thesis for the Edmonton-Winnipeg series is that don't just base everything on the regular season series, I still think the Vegas Golden Knights are a better team. I think that test is going to prepare them for the Avalanche in that second round. I think these are the class of the league right now. You could look at teams like Carolina at 850. Boston at 11 is interesting. They could lose in the first round, or they could win the Stanley Cup. I could see both of those things happening. And then you get into teams like Pittsburgh and Edmonton, 14-1, Florida and Washington at 15-1. But I think for a pick outright, when it comes down to it, I think the difference in this that kind of makes me lean Golden Knights is their depth, their defensive capability, and their goaltending. And you know what? I know Robin Lehner's got a lot to prove right now. Marc-Andre Fleury's had a Vezina caliber season. They won the Jennings Trophy for a reason. I think that will be very important come playoff time. So to me, it's a real toss-up. But you give me an extra plus 200, I'll go with the Golden Knights for the pick for to raise the cup.
So there we go. Colorado Avalanche plus 450, Golden Knights plus 650. A couple of those numbers, you saw the Knights at 8-1. I think the Oilers at the beginning of the week were like 20-1, and now they're 14-1. So obviously some money coming in on the oil here as that line moved a little bit at Coolbet. But the Leafs, let's just quickly talk about the Leafs. What would that number have to be for you to go in on the Leafs? Because right now, it's not worth the value when you look at how they would compare to some of these other teams, I don't think.
Like, to actually win the cup, it would need to be at least double that. I mean, like,
that's what I was thinking, like plus 9.
To me, the Leafs, do the Leafs have a better chance to win the cup than the Boston Bruins do? I mean, I don't know. I mean, the Bruins are 11-1. Pittsburgh, Edmonton's 14-1. So again, like kind of 11-12, I think would make sense. But again, with the avalanche of money on the blue and white, you knew that number would be low. And hell, earlier this season, at one point on this show, we pulled them up and, the Leafs were at plus 450. And again, it was just trying to mitigate the fact that they've had so much money on Toronto. I don't know. They might be broke if the Leafs actually finally do break the streak. We'll see what happens.
If you just want to look at the numbers here quickly, I mean, what'd you say? What are the Leafs right now? Plus 550?
550, yeah.
Yeah, and the Oilers are plus 1,400. And they both have won 35 games this year. Like, there's a chance that the Oilers actually finish with more wins than the Toronto Maple Leafs because the Oilers played them. I think the Leafs still play one more. The Oilers still play one more. There's a chance that still happens. And you're going to have, 9 points sitting there between the two. So it's that alone. I look at it and go, well, I think the Leafs are a little bit, obviously they've just been bet heavily, and that's where the number's at right now. So.
Listen, they're overvalued, and that's the same thing. You want to bet on the New York Yankees when they're having a good season, hold your nose when you look at the number. And that is the Toronto Maple Leafs when it comes to the National Hockey League, especially in Canada.
All right, so there you go. Golden Knights, Avalanche, somebody coming out of that division, in our opinion, is going to win the Stanley Cup. Let's get to our best bets in the first round. Huss, where are you going, buddy?
Well, you know what? Obviously there's a few pretty heavy favorites in the first round, but I wanted to go to a couple of the series that the numbers were a little more palatable. And I'll start with Pittsburgh, minus 139 against the Islanders. And here's the thing. We made some money on the Islanders earlier on in the season. I mean, that ridiculous home record that they had. And I thought maybe that this could be the year that the Islanders got it. Ever since the trade deadline, it's gone south. And this will sort of, echo some of the things people have been saying about the Winnipeg Jets. But the Islanders really struggled down the way. They, clinched their playoff spot early on and really sort of stumbled down the way. Pittsburgh, far from it. Now, there's also some unfinished business for Pittsburgh. Don't think they don't remember being bounced in 4 straight by these guys a couple of years ago. And, the Pens quietly have been one of the great stories in the league this year. I know they had, they made the change in the front office with Berkey and those guys coming in. They acquired Jeff Carter at the deadline.
He's been lights out.
Yeah, absolutely he has been. Sid, Malkin are get going right now. So, to me, the Penguins have all the momentum going into the playoffs, and they have some history, and I think will be playing with a chip on their shoulder. So I really do like Pittsburgh in the first round against the New York Islanders. And then this number was just too good not to jump on. I've got a lot of respect for what Joel Quenneville and the Panthers have done this year. And again, we've had similar conversations, Dusty, earlier. When's the bubble going to burst on Florida? And, it was about a month ago we realized, hey, this team is not going anywhere. They're going to be right there to the finish. And sure enough, they end up in the first ever Sunshine State Series against Tampa. Florida probably deserves better after the series the season they've had to get the Stanley Cup champs in round 1. But the thing with Tampa is that, they're getting Kucherov back. They're getting Stamkos back. This has been the plan all season long, and it seems to be coming together just as planned. So listen, I think even without those guys, I think it would have been a real tough series one way or the other. But when you add the firepower that's coming back into the Tampa lineup, and listen, I know they're paying $10 million to Sergei Bobrovsky, but the best goaltender in this series is Andrei Vasilevsky. And, I know Hedman's somewhat nicked up, and that is a concern. But as far as winning this series, hey, to be the man, you got to beat the man, and they are still the man, especially with their man, Nikita Kucherov, coming back for the first round. So I like Pittsburgh and Tampa, and I like the odds for those series as well. as opposed to some of the bigger numbers for some of the other ones that are more likely to maybe to pull it off.
It is crazy that they're getting Kucherov back. I mean, the plan all along was to have him slide back in here, and mission accomplished. And I don't think it'll take a ton of time for him to get up to speed when you're at that level of player. But I wonder, and I'm not sure Florida needed any sort of added motivation here either, but I wonder if they're like, screw these guys. Like, they sit there and screw the cap over all year. Now they're going to come back and just think they're going to walk all over us. I wonder if Florida can find a little something extra here against Tampa, just because of the fact that, it's kind of a slap in the face to the entire league that the defending champions are able to do what they did here with Kucherov.
Oh, listen, they will be ready to go. And if you saw the last couple games between these teams, I think that's already started. Listen, they've been an afterthought in that state, really, ever since their first year in the league. And while Tampa's gone and won 2 cups, they've been the embarrassment that's the place that had COVID-type seating pre-COVID with nobody in the building. So
safest building in the league.
Yeah, listen, there absolutely is more to this for the Florida Panthers. This is about respect. This is about kind of announcing themselves as, a legitimate team there under new management with a new head coach. The problem is they're going up against arguably the best team in the National Hockey League.
And a nice number here for you at -120.
Yeah, you know what? And honestly, this is full respect to Florida and the season that they've had so far this season. Because against just about anyone else, Tampa's probably -170, -180, hell, -208, like we've got with the Oilers and the Jets right now. So I like the value on Tampa. I do think they'll be a dangerous team. Hey, I would love to be wrong on this. I think it'd be a real cool story if Florida went in and won that series and moved on to probably take on the Carolina Hurricanes. But as I said, when it comes to actually laying down my own Canadian currency, -120 on the defending Chaps, I will take it. Where are you going?
I'm going to go. Sorry to everybody watching in Winnipeg again tonight, but I'm going to go to the Oilers here at -2.8. And it's funny because that's as far as I wanted to go on some of these heavier favorites. Like, I didn't see a ton of value in the Torontos or the Carolinas. I'm going to kind of tie that in a little bit later on here. But the fact that Winnipeg had 9 games and couldn't figure out any way to slow down Connor McDavid, I just don't see them miraculously all of a sudden figuring that out here over a 7-game series. Could Connor Hellebuck absolutely steal this series? Of course he could. And he's like, if the Jets are going to take this series, Hellebuck's going to have to be brilliant, is he not? Is that not usually their recipe for success anyway?
Well, listen, I don't think it doesn't matter who you are. I don't think you can beat the Oilers and Connor McDavid without having world-class goaltending. But yes, I mean, I did say on Winnipeg Sports Talk yesterday, if we're looking for path to victory for the Winnipeg Jets, look no further than Connor Hellebuck needs to be the best Connor in the series. And if he is that, then you know what? The Jets will have an opportunity to do that. But easier said than done, because the guy on the other side wearing number 97 is a lock for the Hart trophy and was doing things we haven't seen in like 20, 30 years this year in the NHL.
It has been a special season, so I'm going to think it continues at least for a round. So I'm on the Oilers -208. And then, like I said, some of those other numbers weren't that intriguing to me. I love Carolina, and I love them in under 5 or in under 6, which you get at under 5.5, and it's a plus number. So I've got the Hurricanes either sweeping, maybe going 5 at the most against the Nashville team that's kind of that one team that nobody thinks can do anything in the playoffs this year. And I know they've had to turn their season around to get to where they are. But I mean, I'll give them a game, sure. You're going to give me a game for Nashville and still give me plus money on Carolina here at under 5.5 games. So I'm on Carolina +125, under 5.5. And I feel really good about that one being at a plus number.
Yeah, listen, I'm big on Carolina too. I was very close, and I didn't really mention it, but when we were talking about Vegas at +650, to me it was pretty much a coin toss between Vegas and Carolina. And at the end of the day, even though they've got that tough first and second round matchup, to me it was the goaltending that sort of gave me the check on Vegas. But I really do like Carolina, and I think Nashville's one of those teams that, they're sort of like the opposite of the Jets. They were down and out, and then they basically been playing playoff hockey for a long time. Often that can be a springboard for a team going into the playoffs for sort of an unlikely run. I don't see it happening this year, though. I think the Carolina Hurricanes are the real deal, and I don't mind that. It would not at all shock me if this one was in 4 or 5 games. So I like it at the plus money, plus 125.
Yeah, I thought that was good, so I hopped on that. So there you go. Our best bets in the first round. Pens minus 139 over the Islanders. Tampa minus 120 for Florida. Oilers minus 208 over the Jets. And Carolina, over that series, under 5.5 games. Carolina plus 125 there. Still to come on the Lock Shop here on a Friday. Once again, subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. Search the Lock Shop on all your podcasting platforms. We're going to get you to some plus money prop bets coming up here later on. And of course, us is another wide world of wagering that we're going to get to a little bit later as well. But right now, Pat Gregoire joins us from Coolbet in for Chris Abbott on the Lock Shop this week. Patty, welcome to the Lock Shop for the first time ever, buddy. Thanks for joining us.
What's up, Pat?
I love it. What's going on, Huss? What's up, Dusty? I made my debut on Two Guys yesterday, and now I'm on the Lock Shop. You know what, Chris? Maybe he can extend his holiday. I don't mind this at all. Every Friday, my tradition is go out, walk the dog, listen to the podcast, listen to you guys, and usually I end up people looking at me wondering why I'm laughing so hard. It's because I'm actually dying at the World Wide Wagering. It is the best. It is the best in all of Canadians. What do you guys call it? The best of Canadian broadcasting, web streaming ever. So
it's a niche.
It's so good. It's so good.
Well,
Esports
it's good that you're here.
It's Huss's thing.
I'll tell you what about as far as Chris goes. Can we just talk about him utilizing social media to trigger every person he knows in the province of Ontario with these pics of him at the bar in Newfoundland and, just going to do my second round of the day this afternoon at this. I mean, listen, I'm glad he was smart enough to get out, pay the freight, do the 2-week quarantine and enjoy it. But, from the sounds of it, Pat, not much going on around where you guys are at right now, huh?
No, absolutely not. We're locked down now again until June 2nd. So Chris, although he can be mush sometimes on this show, finally he made the right decision and headed out to the Rock. So
plus EV move if there ever was one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. We were talking about it right off the top, man. Yesterday when you guys officially had all the playoff things, it was like Christmas morning for me. You were with me on Two Guys yesterday when I think I deposited into my account 3 times in the first 10 minutes because it's just like, there's another one I didn't see. We'll get to our plus money props a little bit later on, but what's the buzz like for you guys? Are you seeing it already? A lot of people moving on this action here early in the National Hockey League?
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing a ton of action on these props, obviously, especially within the North Division. Doesn't really matter which team it is. We're seeing a lot of action on that. We have seen some movement a little bit. We talked about it with the Cup yesterday. But for the most part, our biggest risk, or I shouldn't say our biggest risk, but the most tickets that we do have for our Stanley Cup picks right now is Colorado, and that really shouldn't come as a surprise. But the folks watching right now in Winnipeg should be happy that the biggest risk right now that we do have is the Winnipeg Jets to win the Cup. So if the Jets win the Cup, unfortunately, I'm not going to have a Christmas bonus, and that's not going to be great for me. But we'll see what happens. I think that series is going to be a close one. I heard you guys talking earlier. Connor Hellebuck's going to have to do something here. He's going to have to be the best Connor. I like how you put that, Huss. But I think it's going to be a good series. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Hellebuck's 60-1 to win the Conn Smythe. So if you want to, fade yourself and realize you won't be getting a Christmas bonus if it happens, plunk down on that because that could be an associated wager when it comes to it. What about the Leafs? I mean, we sort of have some fun looking at these Leafs numbers, and it's been the case all season long. They've had a great season. It goes without saying, but how low would the number have to go to kind of quell the support of Leaf fans on Toronto? Because at plus 550 compared to some of the other teams, it's one of those numbers that just sticks out. But I mean, that's the way it goes when you have a team that has such massive public support and a lot of excitement behind them going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think obviously at first it's no doubt they're a public team. They're always the odds are always inflated just because so many people like to bet the Leafs. So that's a reason why the number's lower. And you got to think as well right now, they have been playing really well. They're a team that I obviously hasn't won a first round series in a very, very long time. They've struggled within the playoffs, but I think a lot of people have faith in this team with what Kyle Dubas did in the offseason, getting a little tougher, improving that blue line. And then, of course, just with the structure right now, I think, for them have to go through Montreal and then either Winnipeg or Edmonton. Those are two teams that they've shown that they can have success against them. But with that being said, it's still the Leafs. There are still a lot of people, including myself, who have very many traumatic memories going through their minds when it comes through the playoffs. But the Leafs don't have to see Boston until potentially the Final Four or the Stanley Cup. So I think that's why you're also getting some people to sprinkle in that money for the Cup, and then also even to reach the Cup finals. That I think right now it's at plus 240. They're the second favorite right now. So.
Yeah, well, and yesterday, speaking of Boston, yesterday was the anniversary of 4-1 in the third period, which was a great memory for many Canadian sports fans. Just great vibes to go into the playoffs.
Great memories. Well, Huss, we talked about it. We talked about it with Winnipeg and Edmonton and how, there's a path to a victory there for the Jets. Patty, what do you think is there a path to victory for the Habs against the Leafs in the first round? Like, do you think is it just Carey Price has to, be elite Carey Price from his prime to make this happen? Or is there another path there against that Leafs team?
Well, I think Montreal actually has done a pretty good job building their team to be a quote unquote, and I hate it, but a playoff built team. I think they do have, a pretty strong blue line. They have some depth scoring. So I think they're going to have to really grind things out. But at the end of the day, it really will rely on one of those goaltenders, either Jake Allen or Carey Price to come back, and Carey Price to get back to the form that we haven't seen in a few years. So we saw, the Canadiens shock the world last year against the Pens, but that was also a 5-game series. And that was also a Pens team that really didn't feel like they were the Pens teams that we've seen in the past. Now this year, completely off topic, Huss, I was hearing you earlier talk about the Pens. Now this is a team that I think that's a number there that maybe you'll want to sprinkle at, plus 114 right now. But anyways, back on track. I think that, it's going to really have to rely on that goaltending, shut down that top line with Marner and with Matthews. Marner, I mean, in last year's playoffs, he did not look good. Columbus did a very good job really taking away time and space for him. But Matthews, on the other hand, the way he's shooting the puck right now, the way he's playing, and he's actually starting to embrace a little bit of the physical play too. So I think when it comes down to it, it's got to be that goaltending and maybe the thoughts creeping into the back of the Leafs' heads of them not being able to get it done. I think the longer this series goes, obviously there's a better chance for Montreal to take this one.
Well, and speaking of goaltending, I mean, it's far from entirely crystal clear as to what happens in Toronto. I mean, I think Jack Campbell has certainly earned the right to be the starter, and there's all the questions about Freddie. But I mean, if Jack Campbell goes out and has a dud first period in game number 1, the collars will be tight pretty quick in the GTA.
Absolutely. I think so for sure. I think if we had this conversation maybe a month ago, there wouldn't even be thoughts of Freddie Anderson. You're talking to Leaf fans saying, keep Freddie in with the Marlies, keep him on the bench. Dave Riddick is fine. We'll use him as backup. Now, after you see, Jack Campbell come down to earth a little bit over the last few weeks, mind you, the last couple of games we've seen him in the net, he has looked better. But I think that this Leaf team doesn't need a goalie to go out there and steal games for them. In years past, absolutely, with that fire wagon hockey that they did play, they do play a little bit of a better brand. And I know I just said I don't like the term playoff built, but they are a little bit better playoff built. Their defense is so much more improved. TJ Brody, I think, was an excellent ad for them. And I think that even the ads of guys like Spezza, Thornton, Wayne Simmons, Nick Foligno, those guys, they're going to be able to, muck things up. They have experience in the postseason as well. So I do think that the goaltending certainly is a little bit concerning, but I do think the Leafs have some other aspects to their game that might alleviate that uncertainty.
I'm so excited for both of these series, man. I love what we got one day. What is it? The Sunday of the May long weekend. It's a doubleheader. Outside of that, they're alternating the rest of the way. So, man, come on. This is a great time to be a hockey fan.
Yeah, absolutely. Of all the times for them to double up the two Canadian games, do it on May long weekend when everyone is not out doing what they're normally doing because of the pandemic. So double it up them. No, I mean it. Hey, now, guys, just quickly before we finish, is the winner of the Leafs Habs series the champions of Eastern Canada and the winner of the Jets Oilers the Western Canadian champions? Like, will we be making banners for the winners of the first round series?
It's been a long time since the Leafs have been able to hang a banner at the ACC or Scotiabank Arena now. So I think even if this, if they get out of the first round, they'll find a way to hang a banner besides 1967, their last Stanley Cup there. So
didn't they hang a banner?
Didn't
they hang a banner for was it Justin Bieber or John Bon Jovi? One of those two? Is there a Bon Jovi banner up there? That's desperate.
It was brutal, and I think it was Tim Lewicki when he came in, hung a banner, and I think that lasted maybe 2 weeks, and they took that thing down pretty quickly.
We got Garth Brooks' banner here in Edmonton. He had nine straight shows, got himself a banner, which was big. Good for him. That's great. Patty, great job making your Lock Shop debut, buddy. Are you back with us again next week?
I am, yeah. Chris will still be golfing and drinking beer, watching playoff hockey in a bar. So I will be back.
What a dick.
Brutal.
Yeah, and hey, I'll tell folks to make sure you're following the CoolBet socials, CoolBet Canada on Twitter, on Instagram. We'll be getting together early next week. We'll do a little something for the PGA Championship and a little more in the Stanley Cup playoffs before the puck drops.
There you go, Huss, doing my job, man. Unbelievable. You are becoming an internet influencer, man. Swipe up.
Excellent, buddy. We'll chat next week, man.
Subscribe to my OnlyFans.
There you go. Well, buddy. Guys like us should have OnlyFans accounts. You know what I mean? Like, there's enough people out there. Why not? We'll do a joint account. Why not?
Yeah, mainly just feet pics, but whatever. There's a market for everything. Just like there's a market for the Lock Shop and these plus money props for round one.
Let's do it. Go ahead, Huss. You're dabbling all over the place here.
All right. Well, listen, I mean, I am in an optimistic state of mind going into the Jets Oilers series. I wasn't going to come out here and curse the Jets by taking them straight up to win the series. We'll see what happens. We know it's going to be tough. However, I like looking for plus money props. I do like this Mark Scheifele over 4.5 points for a couple reasons. Scheifele's a proud guy. And he is well aware of just how much he and his line were dominated this year by Connor McDavid. And McDavid is a player that Scheifele likes to measure himself against. And honestly, the measurement this year wasn't very good. And now I'm not sure how much time Paul Maurice has Scheifele spend head-to-head against McDavid. Obviously, in the Edmonton matchups, typical of the last change, and I'm sure he's fine with that. How things work head-to-head, not sure. But especially with questions about Nikolai Ehlers' availability for the beginning of the series, a lot of the offensive pressure is going to be on the shoulders of 55, along with Kyle Connor and Blake Wheeler and the Jet power play. And, he'll have plenty of opportunity to score. We've seen some positive trends of this line in particular with their best game of the season on Tuesday against Vancouver. So I think both from a team standpoint as well as a personal standpoint, I think Mark Scheifele is going to be good. And heck, we think back to 2018. Mark Scheifele scored 14 goals in 17 playoff games. I mean, he was the Winnipeg Jets. And, we've spent a lot of time talking about Connor Hellebuck and how he's the backbone of this team. But realistically, if we're talking about path to victory and for the Winnipeg Jets to win and move on, it's going to need more than a goaltender standing on his head. They're going to need to score. And Mark Scheifele is the offensive catalyst for the Winnipeg Jets. So at plus 130 for over 4.5 points, I love that number. Jumped on it right away. That's sort of my good feel-good Jets pick of the plus money props. And then I've got two others. Listen, I'm a huge David Pastrnak fan. He's been in and out this year, but I do really think that this is a series that could go either way. If you told me that Boston won or Washington won in 6 or 7 games, wouldn't be surprised either way. If you told me that David Pastrnak was quiet in the playoffs, that would really surprise me. So when I saw that we're talking about 2.5 goals as the number for one of the most elite goal scorers in the league in a series that I fully expect to go 6, potentially 7 games at a plus money number, I jumped on that right away.
I like that one. That's good.
And at over 2.5 goals. And the other one, I'm going to roll with Josh Anderson of the Montreal Canadiens. He has been a player that, honestly seems built for the playoffs. And I think this time of year is exactly what Mark Bergevin was thinking of when they got him. He's had, some nice nights so far this season. He's big, he's strong. They will be leaning on him, and he'll be, a part of the power play. I'm sure he'll be getting top line minutes and get plenty of opportunities. And what's interesting about this is that it's not the 2.5, it's just the 2 flats. So if he scores 2, it's a push. But I think he's going to be very key to Montreal's chances just to stay in games, never mind to win the series. So at plus 140 for the over 2, I like it. Obviously, there's a chance of a push on that, but I'll take it. Better than 2.5 at plus 140. So Josh Anderson's in there too, but Scheifele over 4.5 points, Pastrnak over 2.5 goals, and Josh Anderson over 2 goals. Those are my 3 favorite props early on heading into round 1.
And there's so many of them. I mean, we're looking at like 14 forwards in every series. I mean, there are a ton of different options for you. So if you're looking at these numbers and going, this is pretty good, I want to see who else is there. They got everybody. I mean, you can go hop on. There's a ton of people, ton of players available on these player props. And the Pastrnak one's good because you're right. That series should go 6 or 7, and he's one of the best goal scorers. And you got 2.5's juicy at plus 110. Now, for me, I've got 2 Oilers props, so then I'm going to Pittsburgh here. McDavid over 10.5. I think it's going to be a long 6 or 7 game series between these 2 clubs. If this thing goes 6 games, Connor McDavid's going to have probably somewhere from 9 to 12 points. I mean, he put up, what do you have, 22 in 9 games?
It's like 2 a game.
Yeah, it wasn't even an average. He literally got 2 points in every game against Winnipeg this year. So I saw the 10.5. We were speculating around the office yesterday, the small select few of us that can still go in, like what would that total be set at for McDavid? And we came to on our own. We're like, probably 10.5 if you expect to go 6 games. But we thought the 10.5 would be a minus number. It'd be like minus 110, minus 115. So when I saw it at plus 120, I was like, I'm on it. We'll take it. The Nugent Hopkins one's interesting because when I locked it in, it was 3.5. When I was doing the graphics last night, it was off the book, and now it's at 4.5. So that one's already moved from 3.5 to 4.5. I got it yesterday, and I double checked my betting slip because I was like, maybe I just thought I had it at 3.5. I got it at 3.5 yesterday at plus 140. I still don't mind it at 4.5 if you want to get in. Hopefully you got in yesterday at 3.5. But here's a guy who's going to be he'll be riding shotgun with Leon Draisaitl, it looks like, to start the series. And the big thing for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is that he's on the league's best power play. It's McDavid, and I know it's McDavid and Draisaitl passing the puck to each other a lot, but sometimes to get it to one of those 2 guys, you got to give it to Nuge for a second and have him sort of move it to one of them. So I think if it goes 6 or 7 games, which we're projecting, then I like Nuge over. I loved him over 3.5. Still don't mind over 4.5. And then last night when I was, and I'm probably in on about 7 or 8 player props already. But last night I'm kind of browsing around, seeing where I could go to mix it up a bit. And I saw Sidney Crosby, who is still one of the best players in the game. And I know the Islanders play a low-scoring, tight game, but Sidney Crosby can put up 3 points in a period against the Islanders. I mean, that's what Sidney Crosby does. So to see the number only at 5.5 for Sidney Crosby. I've never been the hugest Crosby homer. I was always a pro Ovi guy as those 2 guys came along. But Crosby over 5.5 is too good a number for me to not get in at plus 120.
No, I do. And I'm just looking at that number on that series. Like, how about Malkin? Total goals in this series, plus 125 for over 1.5. Like 2 goals for Malkin.
I think they're just projecting a low scoring series.
Yeah, a 5-game series of 1-0 and 2-1 games. So
but Malkin could still have 2 goals if that is the situation.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I'm getting in on that right now. Good find.
Your point in with the Nuge is interesting. In that, especially for some of the series, like the North Division ones that begin a little bit later. It is in your best interest to, hit the lines and check out what's there when everything comes out. Because as we talked with Pat earlier, if an avalanche of money is coming on particular bets, those numbers will change. And, for you, I mean, the difference from getting news at 3.5 to 4.5 could very well be the difference between winning and losing that wager. I mean, there's a reason why they set the number where they did at the start. So, anyways, time is always of the essence when the new lines come out, but there's a lot to get through right now. There have been some changes, but I mean, especially with those West series, they weren't even established until late last night. So anything to do with Colorado props, Vegas props, Minnesota, St. Louis, those will all be fresh numbers as well right now.
What about Kyle Connor, 3.5 points? I was looking at the over on that one too. I mean, I know he struggled there quite a bit, but he had a couple good games down the stretch here, didn't he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he did. He went through really the first slump of his career. I think he had something like 7 or 8 shots over 7 games, and he just wasn't. And then he exploded for a couple of goals in a game, had 4 shots. He had 2 points in the last game. Certainly it did seem like there is some life in Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, which was really concerning Jet fans heading into the playoffs. And Blake Wheeler, he had 2 goals and 2 assists in the last game. He has really stepped up. It seems like the captain's ready to go. And there's a lot of concern about Wheeler and the way he looked earlier in the season. Well, we found out that he was playing with 2 cracked ribs, which doesn't sound very fun. So listen, there's a lot of pressure on those guys to produce. They've been doing it lately. One more game tonight as we speak against the Maple Leafs to finish it off. And then it gets real coming up starting next Wednesday.
We could do 4 hours on all these player props that are posted at Coolbet, though. So hop on there and dig into it because there's some number. McKinnon 7.5. McKinnon and Rantanen are 7.5 in their first round series against St. Louis. Just as we look at some of those later ones that came out. So
yeah, something tells me there may be a couple more ads to the card for Tuesday's lock shop before game 1 on Wednesday between.
Oh yeah, I'm just expecting a bunch of 6-4 games between the Leafs and Oilers. I might just go over on every single player in that series and just hope for the most run and gun series we've seen since the 80s when they used to play. All right, Huss, let's get to the Wide World of Wagering big time hockey episode. But let's get down to what really matters. The greatest 5 minutes in Canadian sports media. What do you got?
Yeah, well, let's get away from the hockey. Everyone's talking about hockey. Not enough people talking about things like Aussie rules football, esports, or MLS. Quick shout out to the teams that we had on the esports parlay last week. We got our first esports winner. We'll be doing it again on this program. And just so you know, Dusty, I'm still waiting for an update, but while I was making these selections last night, I realized that my old friends, the Unicorns of Love, have a day game today. So I've got a little scratch on the Unicorns, waiting to see what happens in that big Dota matchup. But we'll save the esports for a moment. Let's start off with the beautiful game. MLS is in full swing right now, and I got 2 picks for you. We are going to take at home Atlanta FC, former MLS champs. They are minus 135 to win against CF Montreal. The Montreal squad's had a great start, had some unexpected positive early results, but I don't believe they are of the class of the Atlanta squad. So I like Atlanta to win at home, minus 135. And then as much as I'm down with the Austin FC director of morale, Matthew McConaughey, and think that they're or maybe the coolest team in the league, they're certainly not the best team in the league. And going on the road to LA to take on the LA Galaxy is a tall task for a newer club. So give me LA Galaxy to win at home in regulation or on the 3-way bet, plus 117. And if you are feeling spicy and you would like to potentially parlay those 2 picks, you can take Atlanta FC and the LA Galaxy, put them together for a plus 278 2-game MLS money line parlay. It's not the Wide World of Wagering without Aussie rules football. We've hit some point spreads the last couple of games. And by the way, one was St. Kilda on the money line last week, but Port Adelaide, credit to them, they steamrolled the Crows in the Adelaide Derby. So I'm not going against Port Adelaide. In fact, they are on the card this week. And instead of going point spreads, we're taking 3 teams and we're going on a parlay, straight money line. We just need these teams to win, not cover the spreads. Let's start it off with Port Adelaide. They're minus 139, taking on the Western Bulldogs, coming off that massacre of their rivals, the Crows, last weekend. And then we got Essendon minus 145 on the money line versus Fremantle. And we finish it up with Richmond minus 189 on the money line over Greater Western Sydney. Pick any of those if you'd like, if you just want to sprinkle on one of the games, if you're going to watch it late night. But if you'd like to throw Essendon, Port Adelaide, and Richmond all together on a 3-game money line parlay for Aussie Rules football, that one is going to pay off at plus 334. And after the success in the world of esports last week, we go back to esports. And this is similar to the first one. We're not focusing on one particular event. We're going all over the map, identifying, and there's a couple of familiar names you're going to like in this one, Dusty. But anyways, for our weekly esports parlay, we start off with Dota DPC, the North American Upper Division. We like the Evil Geniuses. Evil Geniuses minus 192. They're taking on the Quincy Crew. That's the first pick. That's the only pick from Dota. We then move to Counter-Strike Go. It's the FunSpark Ulti event. And Team Fiend is a pretty heavy favorite, minus 400 over Pact. But we did want to get a Counter-Strike pick in to really make it a real full esports experience parlay. So Team Fiend is in there at minus 400. Now, the 2 more interesting picks at the end, the League of Legends Mid-Season Invitational. We have Team Cloud9 minus 156, shortest number on the parlay, taking on PSG Talon. And then also in the League of Legends Mid-Season Invitational, they burned me originally. If you can't beat them, join them. You know where we're going here. Remember Royal Never Give Up, Dusty, from a few weeks ago? Well, Royal Never Give Up. They're minus 310 on the money line against the Mad Lions. So after what they did busting the first attempt at a successful esports parlay, they're actually on the side of the good guys right now. So there you have it. Dota, Evil Geniuses, minus 192. Counter-Strike Go, Team Fiend, minus 400. And then the League of Legends Mid-Season Invitational, Cloud9, minus 156. And Royal Never Give Up, minus 312. We put that together, and we get plus 312 on the weekly Wide World of Wagering esports parlay. So, you know, we only went to 3 sports today. I didn't want to, add in any futsal or volleyball or anything. We kind of went hard on these 3, kind of a nice little parlay for each or individual bets. And then the other 23 and a half hours of the day are scouring these NHL props before the playoffs get going, Dustin.
As you were doing the Wide World of Wagering, I literally placed a bet on everything you said. Like, it's already locked in. I didn't even bother writing it down. I got it. I think I got one of them. I got that one parlay at a little bit of a better number than you were saying already. So I was like, all right, more value there. I'm in on the Unicorns of Love as well. So let's hit this. Let's run the table in the Wide World of Wagering, buddy.
Yeah, you know it. Lots of good things. Listen, there's not much else for us to do right now, but, throwing a little sprinkle on some ridiculous match anywhere around the world, paying attention to it. Fun way to get through these times before we can get back doing what we like to do, and that's actually watching these sports we're betting on in person in venues with other live human beings. And hopefully we'll get these shots going, and that might be a possibility later on this season. And hear you calling some football games again.
Oh, fingers are crossed, buddy, that they'll have me back. Hopefully that happens. All right, Huss. So we've got another show on Tuesday. We'll still have time to dive into the North Division. I'm sure we'll have, like you said, there'll be some more prop bets coming for you on Tuesday. But another busy Tuesday show here just around the corner.
For sure. I'm hoping that you'll roll out the full Oilers parade route for on Tuesday before game 1 on Wednesday. That would be hey, fantastic. Get the entire wagon on it. Let's go. But
do I have money on Connor McDavid plus 2,100 to win the Conn Smythe? Of course I do. Just a sprinkle. Just, you know what I like? Well, you know what I do like? And we can maybe get into that later, but Vasilevsky plus 2,300. If Tampa wins the cup, they gave the Conn Smythe to Hedman last year. They're giving it to Vasilevsky this year if they win it. Plus 2,300? Come on.
I don't mind that. And I will tell you, while we were talking to P. Greggy, it did remind me, and I did put a little sprinkle on Connor Hellebuck at 60-1, just to get the good vibes going forward.
All right. What we do know is we're going to be talking about a Connor in the second round. So that's positive. That's good. It'll be the story one way or the other, which is going to be great. What's coming up? Oh, yes. No, you already did that today. That's right. Winnipeg Sports Talk's done. So what's the weekend about?
Big weekend is about watching some of these hockey games, maybe getting a little bit of rest. The weather's going to be nice, so we'll kind of get outside, maybe get a little bit of golf in, and then just be ready to go on Monday for the shows. And then I don't mind an extra couple days of wait, to be honest with you, for it, because sooner or later, we've been waiting for this for so long.
I know.
It'll be nice to get an appetizer of some of these other less important series. And then we get right into it. Jets, Oilers, Habs, Leafs mid next week, and 2 straight weeks of nightly all-Canadian playoff matchups. I'm here for it.
It's going to be amazing. We're going to have you covered here on The Lock Shop. If you ever have any questions, just find us on Twitter at Lock Shop Bets. We're presented to you by Coolbet Canada. Sign up for an account. Use the bonus code LOCKSHOP. Huss, enjoy the weekend, buddy. We'll talk to you Tuesday.
Right back at you, dude.